Welcome back to Voice of Africa. Today we dive into an inspiring and powerful message from President Ibrahim Traoré to the youth of Burkina Faso. On this International Youth Day, his words are more important than ever, offering a roadmap for how the young generation can drive change and shape the future of our continent. Stay tuned, because you won't want to miss a single word of this impactful speech. I wish that we take a minute to pray for those who are on the ground and also for the repose of the souls of those who have fallen for our homeland. Thank you. Let us give thanks to God who has allowed us to gather here today on the occasion of the celebration of International Youth Day in good health. Youth of Burkina, youth of Africa. Youth is that phase of life where we have enough strength, enough energy. Youth is the time when we don't have much time. We must take advantage of the time given to us, use the necessary energy to achieve our goals, to change the world, to change our world, to change the world of others positively. Children wish to grow up to be young. Older people wish to become young again. Everyone wants to be young. Youth is a blessing, so take advantage of youth to do something useful. That's why when I see the chosen theme, the first two words stand out to us: integration, security. Africa faces many challenges, and we must ask ourselves, is youth an asset or a handicap for the development of nations? The answer is simple and unequivocal, and you know it. Most developed countries have an aging population, and currently many countries have launched programs to rejuvenate their populations. Africa has the chance of having a very young population, but why is Africa not developed? We should therefore consider the question of understanding why Africa has a young population and is not developed, while the countries that call themselves developed are trying to rejuvenate their populations. We must therefore succeed in transforming our youth into a real asset and a driver of development for our continent. And to do so, we need integration, we need security, we need development, we need to unite. Certainly, you will hear about the African Union. Yes, it exists, but what is the actual impact of the African Union? In reality, we cannot talk about integration in the theme without mentioning the African Union, because it is this organization that should unite us, create real integration. But we are regretful to see these wars persisting on the African continent, killing millions of young people, and that this organization, which is supposed to have an army, is unable to organize itself to support certain countries. Union is not just a word. Union is a symbol, and we, the youth, should learn a lesson from this situation to unite ourselves to make integration a reality. I was unpleasantly surprised when Ethiopia, which hosts the headquarters of the African Union, experienced a conflict, and when I saw the Prime Minister declare and announce the closure of the university in Addis Ababa to face the threat, I did not see any action from the African Union to protect its headquarters. Most Western states saw Addis Ababa falling, packed their bags, and left. Ethiopia fought, found an internal solution, and is living more or less in peace today. Children in Congo have been dying for years. Several other conflicts, such as in Sudan, exist on the continent. We would have liked to see the African Union generate the forces and all the necessary strategies to support these states so that they can regain peace. For nearly 10 years, the Sahel has been the theater of international terrorism, but we see no support from these organizations to find a solution to this problem. Worse, a few days ago, a country outside of Africa openly announced that it had supported and participated in a cowardly, terrorist, and barbaric attack against the forces of our confederation in Tinsawartan. The African Union did not utter a word to condemn this interference by an external state in the internal affairs of our states. I wish they would hear this and break their silence and take actions so that the youth can believe in the African Union. Thank you. We need to unite, and the only way to unite is to talk to each other, understand each other, and lay the foundations of this unity. There are 3 words, 3 vices, 3 great vices that we must banish from our behavior and our lives. I am talking about cowardice, betrayal, and incompetence. We must banish these 3 words from our way of life. Let me explain why. Why does cowardice cover many vices? A coward is always afraid, and when we are afraid, we become slaves. We submit, we lick boots. Our ancestors were not cowards. If we are cowards, our children will ask us questions. Imagine if in Burkina we refused to fight and accepted to submit, to live in slavery. Tomorrow, our children will grow up and ask, were our parents cowards to leave us in slavery? Whether we are alive or dead, we will feel it. The coward is fearful, and the imperialists have understood this. They try to instill fear in leaders so that you become cowards, because when you are a coward, all other vices can arise. They do everything to make us afraid. They come into our palaces, they threaten us directly or with veiled threats. Of course, we respond as needed. They always bring up examples. They will tell us, you know, Thomas Sankara tried to do this, but where is he? He is dead. The Haitian president tried to do this, but where is he? He is dead. Gaddafi tried to do this, but where is he? He is dead. These are the kinds of things they say to us in a veiled manner to instill fear. Worse, we often see some young people trying to follow in these footsteps in another way. You can hear them say, this person did this, and they ended up with the CP. This person did this, and they are in prison. All to try to make us afraid so that we become cowards. But I think they haven't understood something. When we say, the homeland or death, we shall overcome, it's not just a phrase, it has its full meaning. We are not afraid, and we will never be afraid. We will continue our struggle. They have surely scared many African heads of state. You often see it when we speak out, or when we have the opportunity to be in certain situations abroad. We often make remarks to African heads of state to wake up, take care of our youth so that we can initiate real development. We are often misunderstood. Some have publicly responded to our remarks because they feel targeted, but I can assure you, youth, that when we meet in the corridors, these same heads of state tell us, you are on the right path. This is what needs to be done for Africa to succeed. Then we ask them, why don't you do as we do? Why don't you support us? Some tell us their hands are tied, some say they cannot. Dear elders, African heads of state, from this platform, I would like to say that African peoples are the most peaceful peoples. When you recognize a wrong, you must tell the people. Let us not be afraid to come out and say to the people, we apologize, we were compromised, we acquired ill-gotten goods, we were pressured by many things, and we ask for forgiveness. We are returning to the right path and will start working truly for the independence of our states and our emancipation. I believe it is possible. If we remain in this posture of fear, we will be cowards, and history will judge us. Our children will ask questions. Our grandchildren will ask questions. We are writing history. There is no place for cowardice. If our ancestors had been cowards, we would not be here. Remember, I will give you an example. The Bamileke and Bassa peoples, I am talking about the Cameroonians, the union of the populations of Cameroon, which since the 1950s began an implacable struggle against the colonizers, but they were massacred. The French colonial armies at that time deployed infantry battalions, tanks, helicopters, annihilated entire villages. The most inhumane tortures took place during that period. You can research what they called the swing, or the balance, where hundreds of thousands of people were decimated in Africa because they dared to ask the colonizers to leave their land. It resulted in a civil war that lasted several years. It shows that people dared to confront the imperialists with their bare hands so that we could be here. There is no reason why we cannot confront the imperialists so that future generations can live. Across Africa, there have been courageous men who refused to be cowards, who fought, who stood up, and let us be worthy of these people. We are their descendants, so let us be worthy of them. A coward cannot be dignified. Let us not be cowards, African youth, because a coward is always a traitor, and that will lead to ruin. They will try to make us afraid so that we become cowards, and if we are cowards, we will betray. We must banish treachery from our habits. Africans were traitors, allowing the transatlantic slave trade to succeed in Africa. It was because of traitors that colonization could persist in Africa. If we look at history, we will see it. Patrice Lumumba was betrayed because he dared to stand up. Belgian television even came to Congo, bribed some individuals there for an interview to satisfy their audience. And you saw it. Lumumba was a nuisance. He is dead, and they were pleased. That is treachery. Many other heroes have fallen so that we can be here today, and it is a technique of imperialism to instill fear in others by carrying out actions to create terror. It didn't start today. I will give you the example of a warrior who fought, Victor Bakaboda. You will understand. He was from a family of chiefs, not one given by the colonizers, but a legitimate child of a chief. He studied in Senegal, came back as a doctor in Guinea, and later joined Côte d'Ivoire to lead the fight against the imperialists, against the invaders, against the colonizers. He tried to organize Ivorian society, and everywhere people began to raise their voices. At that time, there was a general named Péchu who massacred the Ivorian population to prevent this spirit of freedom from taking root. He continued his fight alongside Félix Houphouët-Boigny, but the most virulent was Victor Bakaboda. He represented a threat to the imperialists, who, in addition to massacring the demonstrators, killed him in a brutal manner one evening near Boisflé. A few hours after the assassination, when the people of Dimbokro heard about it, they marched, they protested, and they were massacred by the colonial army. History is stubborn. The facts are there. After his death, which frightened Félix Houphouët-Boigny, they called him and said, "If you continue the struggle, you will meet the same fate." He got scared and allied himself with the imperialists. He was appointed minister in France, and later he came to take the reins of Côte d'Ivoire, and they used him to eliminate many others who dared to speak out. I think Thomas Sankara is a great example. If you are afraid, you will be a coward and you will betray. Never be afraid. The struggle must continue. There are many other examples around the world. There is also this phenomenon that they have used for a long time and continue to use. For example, you see some individuals who have found themselves in other countries and have created a so-called parallel government to the government of Mali. You have heard this story. It is just a technique that has existed for a long time. I will give you the example of Ahmed Chalabi in Iraq, this mathematics professor who was even in the Iraqi government. He was recruited by the imperialists and formed this semblance of a parallel government in Iraq in the United States. And they used him to be the sacrificial lamb because he was the one who publicly declared that Saddam Hussein was developing weapons of mass destruction, and he did it. They used him, and Chalabi was used to kill millions of children in Iraq and destroy Iraq. And you know what happened to Chalabi. One evening after an interview, during which he even said that he knew the CIA was on his tail, a few hours later, he was found dead in his bed, dead of a heart attack. If you betray, you will have a grim fate. This is how it is. Imperialism has no friends. Imperialism uses you, and when it finishes using you, it does with you as it pleases. Look around, and you will understand what I am talking about. It has always been like this. The third vice is incompetence. Incompetence is a very dangerous phenomenon that has been used to destroy African society. In our administrations, there is a lot of incompetence. Let's acknowledge it. Incompetence have a lot of space alongside imperialism because incompetence can sink the development of a country. Incompetence can make you doubt yourself. They love taking the easy way out. Incompetents want everything for themselves. They dislike those who are competent, those who innovate, and those who seek knowledge. Incompetents are dangerous. When you are enlightened, the incompetent dislikes you. When you want to innovate, the incompetent dislikes you. Incompetence is recognizing someone who is competent and then fighting against them until your last breath because you are afraid of the competent person. Seek knowledge, and work hard to be competent. Banish incompetence because through the distractions they try to impose on us, we become incompetent. I'll give you an example. Social networks are the places where information is published today. People get informed through the internet and many things. A young person who publishes an article on social networks about their farm, an agricultural project, or a scientific endeavor, I'm young, I know the terms, might not get 1,000 views, but a young person who publishes something trivial will get millions of views. This is precisely because they want you to waste time on trivialities. Be aware of this. Let us focus on work and seek knowledge, seek competence. It's fine to have fun, but we must work first before we play. Seek knowledge, otherwise you will waste time doing nothing. Youth is the time, the period when you must make the most of your time. The imperialists know this. That's why they will multiply all kinds of distractions, all kinds of events that can divert you from work, so that you become incompetent. And when you are asleep, they choose the incompetent to lead all important structures, and you have no choice but to submit. Let us not be incompetent. Let us seek knowledge. Incompetents often hide behind words. They use terms like democracy and freedom without understanding what they truly mean. Comrades, democracy is a state of mind just like youth is a state of mind. These so-called Democrats, just look at the world. How can you want to impose democracy by killing millions of people? That's dictatorship, not democracy. Democracy cannot be imposed. Those who call themselves Democrats, just look at them. We have seen scenes where people were prevented from entering assemblies. We have seen scenes where forces stormed assemblies to force deputies to pass laws. We have seen even worse scenes where people were killed for protesting. Yet, they call themselves Democrats, and we are called coup plotters. If that's democracy, then I repeat, we do not want this democracy. And when you see incompetence, they do not try to understand the meaning of the word democracy. They just cling to the definition given to them by imperialism and start talking about democracy without really knowing the foundation. That is incompetence. You must seek to understand, to have knowledge, to look at the world and redefine democracy as we want it in Africa. Incompetence hides behind freedoms. Remember one thing, there is no such thing as individual freedom. It's a fact. Do you really think everyone is free? Freedom is collective as long as we live in a society with rules. Freedom is collective because if you don't respect the rules, you cannot live in society. If this message resonated with you, please like this video, share it with your friends, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Together, we can build the Africa we all dream of. And don't forget to subscribe to Voice of Africa for more empowering content.